Welcome to the show. My name is Karen Holton. I am an ET experiencer and ambassador, an ascension coach, a direct channel, a shamanic guide, and I'm the host of Aliens and Astrology. Be sure to check out more of my unique content on my website, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com, and my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels, Karen Holton TV. I can also be found on the Forbidden Knowledge News Network, www.forbiddenknowledge.news. My paranormal experiences have taught me to replace my beliefs with working theories, which evolve over time. My co-host is Dave Petrella, and although we hold two different viewpoints, we both see things from the same broad perspective, and we are both passionate about the ascension process.
Hi, I'm Dave Petrella. I'm an astrologer, biologist, spiritual guide, and Oak Island theorist. You can find me on Facebook and YouTube at Dave Petrella, and on Instagram at Dave Petrella12. Please feel free to send me an email through my YouTube page. I'm happy to join Karen in our search for truth. We can find the answers we're looking for about health, science, extraterrestrial intelligence, and many other related topics. We're glad to have you join us today for the show.
Welcome back to Aliens and Astrology. Dave and I are here with another really exciting episode. But before we get started, both Dave and I were experiencing some very interesting phenomena over the last month. I thought maybe we could just talk a little bit about it before we get started with flat Earth theory, which is the topic for today. So Dave, we were talking before the show off camera. Do you want to repeat? Do you feel comfortable sharing with the viewers what that energy shift has looked like from your perspective? And then I'll share mine.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, welcome back, everyone. It's always nice to be here. See you guys once every 2 weeks, and it's great to have a new topic every time, and we appreciate you watching and your support. Yeah, I would say the past week specifically has been really intense, lots of activity. I believe there was a planetary body. I think that green comet, if I'm not mistaken, is what it was. And was a very rare event as well. I didn't actually get it. Did you get a chance to see that, Karen?
I did see a few things. I every once in a while I watch Mr. MBB333, and he was talking a bit about it, but no, not a whole lot of detail. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that kind of kicked things off. We've got this. I don't know what's going on with this space balloon nonsense. I'm going to try to stay out of that one for right now, but just things that you don't see, and just they're odd news headlines, and it's like, okay, so if they're all happening at the same time, then it's probably related. To draw that conclusion, you like a working conclusion, but I go ahead and draw the conclusion if it makes sense to me. So yeah, and then the past week I was telling Karen before the show that I've just been getting a lot of downloads, and what I mean by downloads is files of information that I get out of nowhere, out of thin air, just comes straight out of the ether, fully developed, fully packaged, and organized. It's a gift, really a gift from the universe. I don't have to do anything. It's given freely to me, and they're things that help me to organize in terms of what we need to do for the future, where we need to be, how we need to get things lined up, and everything. So this week in particular, I mean, it's really been all since the winter solstice. Really, it's been a whole new world, literally. And I understand, if you're not at the frequency, you might not be picking up on it a lot. But I would find it hard to believe that most people have not experienced something out of the ordinary. And I'm getting really exciting because we have huge things coming up in 2023 for astrology. Many of the outer planets are going to be in entirely different signs, which just does not happen very often at all. And that's going to get kicked off in March. So we're coming into that. We're also coming into the spring equinox, of course, which is associated with March. So everything gets compounded. And right now we're dealing with some really extreme cosmic energies. And I've seen it all over the internet too, as I'm sure you have, Karen. Our friends have been commenting on it. It's like, what? Wow, what is going on right now? This is brilliant. But stay buckled up and stay diligent, because it can kind of throw you off the tracks if you're not careful.
Oh, absolutely, Dave. The other thing too is, I know this is not a popular message, but I'm going to say it anyway. Take exquisite care of the temple body. Take really good care of your health. So I just want to talk just a couple minutes about how I've experienced the shift. So Dave said to me, oh, I don't know, around the second to last week in December, he says, Karen, have you noticed a shift? I went, no, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I don't feel good. I have no idea what's going on, but Dave, whatever this is, I'm not feeling so good. So anyway, it turned out I went to the doctor. I had a very, what I consider a very mild health issue come up. And I realized the doctor wasn't going to help me. What they're looking for just doesn't really exist in my reality, to be honest with you. And so I went, okay, I'm going to cut out certain foods that I know cause inflammation in my body. So I'm not saying this might be true for you. I'm saying from my own perspective. So I cut out dairy and I cut out lectins. And for some of you who don't know what lectins is, it's Lectins, and you definitely want to Google it. And some of us are sensitive to lectins, and it causes an inflammatory response in the body. So it wasn't easy after all the feasting I had done in December, but I cut those things out of my diet. And then, I don't know, wasn't long, like within a week, pop. It was like I was on a different timeline. So, and from just from the mundane to the weird, everything seems to have shifted. So I've had more energy. I've been doing spring cleaning. I've been doing all these things that there's no way I had the energy to do in December, and I have it now. I've also noticed my cat is more frisky and feeling happier. So it isn't just me and Dave. I also get downloads, and for those of you that get them, you know what we're talking about. But some of them are so deep and so profound that it actually kind of causes us to go into seclusion for a while to get it all sorted out, because it's an enormous amount of information that's dropped and we instantly get it, and then it unfolds in our lives to sort of enhance the lesson. But so yes, Dave, I've been getting those too. So I've noticed a huge shift. And not just that, but I'll just throw this out quickly and then we'll get on to the topic for today. And that is, I've always had a problem communicating with trying to get things sorted out on the internet with either the bank or the insurance company or the government or taxes or anything like that. It really stresses me out because it never goes very well. And I live in Canada, and it used to be all these AIs that didn't give you what you wanted. It was so frustrating. Anyway, I had some stuff I needed to get sorted out before, before the equinox. I wanted to get it sorted out. And you know what? Something else has shifted. I found that every single agent I talked to, whether it was a bank, credit card company, to do with my pension, anything like that, everybody was super sweet and kind to me. And so I was able to relax and be kind and sweet to them. And I thanked them all very much for their help and told them they were doing a good job. And I know they were happy when they let me go. And it was like a shift. So something has shifted, Dave. Something has definitely shifted. And it's showing up in all different ways within my life. And quite honestly, I'm really happy about it. Is there anything you want to say about that, Dave, before we jump into your really exciting topic for today?
Oh yeah, no, I agree 100%. And in retrospect, if I was really paying attention, it's something. I mean, it's something you have to really develop spiritually in terms of your perception and awareness to notice when the shifts happen. I notice every single one now, and it took me. I mean, I think it's become a little easier because the energy is stronger coming in now. But I actually believe it's always been happening, and it's just really have to get, and we've been lied to forever. So you just have to really
Mm.
get keyed in, get connected back to the natural rhythms, and you'll start to actually perceive that. And then when you can associate that with astrology, then you can see exactly what happened. And that's, of course, where astrology comes in. And that's one of the ways I can be of service to people is that you're trying to understand exactly what you're feeling, whether it's just how you are as a person, how you interact with people, the current transits in the sky, what's going on at the moment, then that will explain it for you. Yeah, and then the only other thing I wanted to add was that I actually think what's been happening, and it's been really extreme since probably 2019. If I was paying attention before that, I would have noticed it as well. It has actually been happening for a very long time, probably forever. Actually, I think that's how it's designed on the planet, but what I think happens is that, and we've talked about dimensions a lot, Karen. Of course, I teach a 21 dimension solar system, which I'll show really briefly in the presentation in a minute. But the thing is, for me, is that I think people exist in different timelines. It's going to be very hard to perceive that because they look almost identical, but there's slight differences in density and the quality of the ether and things like that within that matrix. And if you can pay attention, you can realize this might be a different place. You're not always in the
Mhm.
same dimension necessarily. Some of us can move back and forth. So I think what happens is when these big shifts happen, there's like en masse, a big group of people that gets transferred from their dimension to another dimension. And if you were living in an alternate one, you get transferred in with them if it's part of your karma and your energy signature. And then it all reorganizes and then it splits, and that's how the solar system stays, that's how timelines stay organized, and again, that's all driven by astrology. So if you suddenly, it's like you know if you didn't change anything and suddenly everyone's acting differently towards you, yeah, something happened. That's not, it doesn't just happen like that. Every person you talk to, Karen, and all the technology now, it's not becoming less of a problem, and people are being nice and the animals are happier. So yeah, it's something that's going on in the sky for sure. And just to key into what that is really when you're gonna figure it out. But in any case, we've got a flat Earth presentation today.
Yes.
It's a hot topic. Um, it's been really hot since at least 2015, I would say, because that's when I found it. And when I was looking for this, I found Santos Bonacci, my friend, the great astrologer and flat earther. I found his YouTube channel. It's it's called Mr. Astrotheology, Astrotheology, on YouTube. Go to his channel, guys. He's got I think we're still here. Can you still hear me, Karen?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I
Oh,
just
okay.
went into the screen share, so I was ready when you are.
Okay, great. So in any case, I was looking, actually, I wasn't even looking for astrology. I was looking for information about what I would call esoteric biology, which is the chakra system, it's meridians, it's all the Asian sciences of biology. Then I found in the suggestions, I found astrology videos, and I said, okay, this is something that I'm being asked to look into. I should really start paying attention to this. So then I did that, and then after that, this was the beginning of 2015 for me. I think it was January 2015. After that, and I felt like I kind of gotten what I was looking for, or like I started to really develop astrology for myself. Then I saw these videos about flat Earth, and the first thing that I thought of was like, it was, again, it's a lot of misinterpretation, it's misunderstandings. What does that phrase even mean? And that's why I'm doing this. And I'm also doing this to show people why there's a lot of intelligent people that are paying attention to this that you would otherwise think, why are you wasting your time? Well, I'm going to show you why you think they're wasting their time, and I'm going to show you there's a lot of very convincing proofs for a flat Earth. The first misunderstanding that I had was that when you say flat Earth, it doesn't. This is what I thought, and this is why immediately I was like, no, I don't agree with that, because you have mountains. We can all see there's mountains. So I assuming that it meant like a two-dimensional plane essentially, with no rise in elevation. There's no features or anything like that, no topography. And so that was the initial reason I said I don't want to watch this. And then it took me a little while to understand that was not what was being suggested. So that was my first issue with it. And then that was cleared up. Then I said, oh, okay, now I can listen, because this might actually make sense.
Right.
So again, like I do for all topics, I gave it the time, and I kind of tried to remove my opinions and my subjectivity, and I just looked at it objectively, which is what good science is. So I watched a lot of Santos Bonacci's videos, and he does a really good job, and he's got tons of stuff up there, guys. If you want to see a powerhouse presentation apart from what my presentation is going to be, what I try to do is I try to condense and summarize with a little bit of detail to make it as clear as possible for people, because it's not easy to understand. And instead of spending 3 weeks or 4 weeks going through videos, what I like to do is basically say, guys, just come here. I have I'm very versed in it. I'm very comfortable with it. And just get your information here, or get kind of like bolted down here first if you'd like to, and then go out from there and do your own research. But, I've done the work already, so I want to make it easy for people. And of course, astrology and the model of astrology that I teach is actually based on a flat Earth geocentric model, which means that the Earth is at the center, not the sun, and that the sun actually goes around the Earth, which was, it's what was initially taught in the ancient world. That was always taught, and I'm going to show you once we can actually go to the first slide if you like, Karen. I'm going to show you guys like three or four of the different models, and to show you that this is actually, in fact, what they were teaching. It's not someone's imagination. It didn't pop out of nowhere. And in fact, I think I have this. Yeah, I'll get to this during the presentation. I don't want to jump ahead of myself. I was going to talk about Copernicus really quick.
Okay, hold that thought. I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents, and that is that the first time I used to hear about flat Earth theory, and I always just laughed my head off. The first time I ever examined the information was also with Santos Bonacci, and to be honest with you folks, I felt sick. It shook up my paradigm to the point where I felt physically sick. Anyway, I pursued it, and I ended up. We've had Dave Weiss on the Quantum Guide show. We've had, many of us are familiar with Santos, and I think the whole thing is, Dave, you probably agree with me. We're not asking you to believe what we're saying, but by examining flat Earth theory, what happens is it helps us to deconstruct and detoxify from the construct, because we've been fed a line of horse manure for thousands of years, and it does shake up your paradigm. But it's good to have your paradigm shook up so that you can start getting back into critical thinking, and you can start forming your own truth. So I just wanted to throw that in, Dave. And here's the first image, and you were going to talk about who? Copernicus.
No, that's fine. I'll get into Copernicus in a little bit, but I want to open it up with the actual models so you can see what we're even looking at here. Very important to have a visual when you're talking about this, because it's hard to wrap your head around it, like Karen said, especially if you've never thought about it before. And again, in school, it was brought up in one sentence in the textbook, and then it was said it's false. Okay, according to who? I didn't have the critical thinking ability, and in my defense, there was so much brainwashing going on that it's they basically put it behind the door so you can't see it. That's like, no, and of course nowadays I don't play that way at all. What happens is that you bring it forward and don't force your agenda on me. What's going to happen is you're going to give me the information. I'm going to tell you what I think about it based on what you presented, and then I'm going to let you know straight to your face what I think about it. I don't play. There's no beating around the bush. This is 2023, guys. That shit is done. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm forward about it. I'm respectful as a default. But if you're going to instigate things and you're going to try to obscure things, I'm going to call you out. It's very simple. And what's going to happen usually is that people end up looking foolish because they don't have anything backing it up. Where I've got, if you guys can see this, I've got an entire page of organized notes here. And this is what I'm going to be using for their presentation. This is my proof and evidence. And it's very, very broad, as you'll see. Okay, so first thing I want to say, I already gave credit to Santos Bonacci. Go check out his channel, guys. He's does great work on all kinds of topics, including flat Earth, and primarily flat Earth these days. He's also an excellent astrologer. It's called Mr. Astrotheology on YouTube. And then the other person is Eric Dubé, who I think you probably heard of, Karen. He's all over the YouTube as well with flat Earth. And I found that he does also really good presentations. They're very well thought out. It's very well organized. It's easy to pause, take a break, come back, because he breaks it up into like chapters or sections. And his last name, well, his first name, E-R-I-C, last name D-U-B-A-Y, Eric Dubé on YouTube. So check him out too, guys. And I'll give you the video. I think it's still up there. It's a little hard to find. You're gonna have to go through his playlists once you get to his channel, but I'll tell you what video to look for specifically that I thought was the best one. Okay, so the most important point for flat Earth is that literally, essentially, all of the ancient models are based on a flat Earth. So the first thing is that you're gonna tell me, modern people are gonna tell me that for the past 7,000 years, it's all trash, right? Okay, so the people who developed astronomy and astrology, the people who were building architecture that we can't build, move zones that we can't move, they didn't know what they were talking about, right? And by the way, Stonehenge is still aligned and all this stuff, and you can still get the equinoxes and Chichen Itza in the Mayan world, the Yucatan Peninsula. So no, number one right off the bat, I don't buy that. Oh, because that's where I get my wisdom from, and it stands the test of time. It's very rare that something comes up that I cannot fit into an ancient model, whether it's flat Earth or not flat Earth. So I get a little bit riled up with stuff, guys, because it's just the people who were telling us this is how it is. Well, first of all, most of them are career scientists or career politicians. They've got economic interests. I can guarantee you that, because money has the last say in this world. And you gotta see where people are coming from. So, and then what happens is when they get in front of someone, a lot of them won't even show up for a debate. Santos invites people all the time to come on his channel and debate him on these topics. Yeah, they don't want to do it. Well, guess what? If you're that tripped, you can do it with your eyes blindfolded. It's just like I do astrology. You're not worried about it because you know how to defend what you believe in. If people don't show up, that's usually when they've got something to hide, and so that's immediately what or if you're not willing to stand up and take questions from people in a public forum, then you shouldn't be talking about it. I'm sorry. No, because we have a responsibility to our fellow human beings to tell the truth and to be honest and to make sure people have what they need, to live a happy life. So if you're not willing to go up in front of people, yeah, you're definitely hiding something. I guarantee you definitely are. So again, that's how I can weed out different types of people. It's like I'm willing to stand here. You come on Karen's show, our show, my own podcast. Go ahead, grill me if you want to. I'm not going to be phased. I know what I'm talking about. And if something comes up that challenges what I say, and I don't have a good response, guess what I'm going to do? First thing when I finish, I'm going to do the research and I'm going to get back to you. I'll say, you know what? Let me think about that for a couple of days. I'll get back to you. And then I actually get back to them, Karen. I don't just disappear like most people end up doing, when they're challenged like that. Okay, so anyway, the first model here is the Vedic Hindu cosmology. So obviously it comes out of ancient India. We have ancient India to thank for Vedic astrology, which is, I believe, the oldest astrology in the world, and it's the most developed. I do Western astrology, tropical astrology, which comes out of Egypt and Mesopotamia, and they're both valid. So don't let anyone tell you that they're not, and they have different applications. And this is the model. It features what's called the cosmic axis. It's also called the world tree. In India, they often call it Mount Meru, Meru. It's oftentimes described as a sort of like a black magnetic pillar that's at the center of the plane. And when I say plane, look at that middle disk there. You notice is flat. That's the Earth. That's the flat Earth when we talk about flat Earth. It's the very middle one that has the yellow ring, and you can see the sun going around there. That's where the Earth is. And the word Earth is essentially the word heart. It's the same letters. And where's the heart? The heart's in the middle. And all ancient disciplines, the heart's always in the middle. So you see that the Earth, which is the heart, is at the middle. And it's the middle of the toroidal field. And you can see that this is what happens when you generate energy, is that generally speaking, as far as I know in terms of physics in this solar system, I mean, it can be different in different solar systems for sure, but the observable physics here is that when you have an energy source, it creates a torus. And it's electromagnetism, it's electricity and it's magnetism. And you've got an arc going over the top, and then you have an arc going over the bottom section. And it's all centered around the flat center, which is, in this case, we're talking about flat Earth, the cosmic axis here. So what that does is it actually creates, this is physics, and it actually just creates a toroidal field, a toroidal structure. And the top of the toroidal structure we call the heavens. These are the heavenly dimensions. And then the bottom of that structure we call the hells, the heavenly dimensions. So when you're going above the center disk here, you're seeing the different levels, and those are equivalent to the different dimensions. They're also called the different spheres. You hear the spheres of the planets, like they talk about in ancient times and a lot of the traditions. Then that's what we're talking about. You've got the flat Earth disk at the center. And by the way, the word planet is inferring, it's coming from plane, which is two-dimensional. So the very word planet is telling you is 2D. Now, some people would say, oh, that's just because there was ignorance. No, absolutely not. It's in the Bible. It's in the Quran. It's in essentially every ancient philosophy of all of the ancient peoples on the planet. So no, when you see all that lining up, no, these are genius people. I think some of them were demigods, the level of intelligence that they had coming down here, establishing the disciplines. So no, I trust them. And even if someone didn't bring it up, I would still trust them as a default, because this is where all of our wisdom comes from. So when I can see, and again, if I look at Vedic medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, and I see that it's legitimate and valid, and I can essentially prove that myself from a firsthand perspective by doing the work, and it's like a fully developed system, yeah, then if you did such a good job with that, well, I'm gonna take time to pay attention to your other disciplines, such as cosmology and social structure and philosophies and all kinds of stuff like that. There's a lot of credence in the ancient world. Okay, so that's the Vedic model looks like this. And again, you've got the dimensions that are stacked on the top. Those would be the heavens. Those are the heavenly dimensions. When I talk about a 21 dimension Earth system, the Earth is one of them. And then you've got 10 above it, heavens, and then 10 below it, which are the hells. And the way that those are formed is from the torus, which is the energy at the center. It arcs over the top and then arcs over the bottom. And that arc creates the dome, which is what we're going to get to when you're talking about the flat Earth having the dome over it. And actually, all the dimensions have a dome. They're actually stacked inside of each other, just like an onion, which is, of course, what this looks like here, that diagram. You can see it's split apart into the different layers. Or you can talk about it like a Russian nesting doll, that they fit inside of each other. There's domes within domes within domes. And that, all it is really is it's a torus field, which, again, Santos Bonacci does excellent with that. He loves that topic and he does a great job. So check that out too. Red shift, blue shift, it's the same thing. That's how energy is shifted in terms of shorter wavelengths or versus longer wavelengths. And what it does in the case of the torus here is that the energy actually comes out the top of the torus, and then it circles around it in a globe fashion, and it comes back in the bottom. And that creates your blue, I believe it's the blue shift on the top and then the red shift on the bottom, where the waves are short at the top, the highest energy. The waves are longest at the bottom with the longest wavelengths, lowest energy. So it's all physics, guys. This is not just it doesn't come out of nowhere. And you see in the pictographs, even in the ancient peoples of the world, they're showing force fields all the time. You can see portals or what you call wormholes or dimensions. It's the same principle. In fact, this is also how I would argue a wormhole is formed. There's all torus fields that are interconnected and different strings of energy and stuff like that. So this is really a baseline for physics. You really want to pay attention to this. Okay, so this is out of ancient India. And again, they're the ones who I believe established astrology on planet Earth. So that's why I like to start here, because hey, these are the guys that teach Ayurvedic medicine, which is the oldest intact medical system in the world, with full texts and full descriptions. It's absolutely brilliant. Okay, we can go on to the next slide, Karen. So the next one, I believe it's Sumeria. Yep. Okay, so we got Sumerian cosmology here. This is essentially ancient Mesopotamia, which I had mentioned previously that tropical astrology comes out of ancient Mesopotamia, which is really the two big astrologies, is tropical and then Vedic. And this one it's the same model. You can see the domes. You see the center there is that flat rock, that would be the Earth. Beneath that, it's called the Apsu, which is the freshwater spring of the Earth. It was called essentially the inner ocean, which is beneath the Earth. And then you have the saltwater ocean, which is outside of that flat table, which and the salt in the water comes from the land, actually. Believe when it was created, it was actually all freshwater when the ocean was first created, before the runoff from the rocks. And in fact, there's a lot of stories that talk about the flood actually came from inside of the Earth. And I just heard that probably 6 months ago for the first time. I don't know how, first time I heard that, but not, don't think of it maybe as much as rain. I think it was probably everything at the same time. But most people never think about that, including myself, that the water actually bubbled up from below and it raised the level of the oceans on the Earth by a lot, huge amount, enough to cover all the land mass. Okay, so the other thing to notice in this model is that above this flat disk in the center there, you've got three heavens. I believe it says, it's hard for me to read. It's a very small screen here, but I think it's like the lesser heavens or the lesser God. Oh, wait, it's what does that first one say, Karen? Something about the stars? The one with the stars in it.
Sure.
You can see the stars.
The heaven
so
that's closest to us is the heaven of the constellations. And then you see the layer
right.
with all the people, that's the heaven of the younger gods. And then the top one is Anu, the heaven of the elder gods.
Perfect. So the constellation heaven is called the fixed stars, and that's ruled by Uranus. It's the eighth sphere. So when you're talking about the dimensions above and below, like I was just talking about, that's the one of Uranus, and that is one of the highest heavens. And that's actually where the fixed stars exist. They all exist according to the flat Earth model in the eighth level, the eighth sphere. And then above that is the ninth sphere, is essentially the dream world. It's ruled by Neptune. It's called the crystalline sea. It's the ocean above the heavens, essentially. And then because everything's mirrored, everything on down here is mirrored up there and vice versa. So there is an ocean up there as well. It's in the ninth sphere. And then the 10th one is essentially Pluto, or sometimes I would say Nibiru, or a binary star system. It's variously described what planet is up there, but it's called the Destroyer. I'll tell you that for sure. And it's always projected to return to the Earth, causing massive change, which is consistent with what Pluto does astrologically as well. So either way you look at that. And then it stops there, because that's the end of our solar system. That's the end of the torus field. And then outside that's the rest of the universe. But what we have on the Earth is it's an enclosed system of essentially nesting spheres that are inside of each other, and they create the dimensions through physics. It's just how energy moves in a torus field. And then anyway, but you can see in this model too, you see below the flat Earth, or below that table rock looking land in the middle, you're going to have an inverse of what's above. So you also have, the starry constellation heaven in the eighth sphere below the Earth that has the opposing principles to the heaven. So the eighth heaven has a flip side or a mirror side, which is the eighth hell, essentially. And the lower down you go, the denser you're going to get. And from my experience, there's no color anywhere below the Earth, which, if you think about it, kind of makes sense, because you need the sun, I suppose, to have color, unless you're talking about quantum physics and piezoelectricity, which I can totally honor those topics. But when I visited some of the lower dimensions, it was all gray, Karen. There was no color, and the energy was very low. It felt very low. It felt like very disorganized. It was hard for there to be a lot of detail because of the low energy, and also it's very hard to express things in color when there's not enough energy, because visible light, you remember from middle school and high school, when you're talking about science, visible light's at the very center of the electromagnetic spectrum, and it's a very, very, very small band of all of light energy. So if energy does not have enough power behind it, that cannot actually express itself as color. And everything below that, that's where you get your radio waves. A lot of the demonic activity likes to happen down the radio wave spectrum, and also the microwave spectrum, and also in infrared. And then above that, you have, of course, X-rays and gamma rays, and that's where I believe the angelic realm exists. It's very high energy and very high detail and brilliant colors, even colors like we've never dreamed of before. Fluorescent pinks and purples and blues and all kinds of stuff like that are not on Earth naturally. That is things, those are actually there naturally in the higher dimensions. Okay, so this is Sumeria. It's essentially the same model. And then I think we've got ancient Egypt next. And the ancient Egyptians had essentially a very identical model. And you'll see when we flip the slide here. It's the same thing. You see the dome. You see the starry expanse. It's always curved over the top and over the bottom. And they're exact corollaries of each other. We just different parts of the world, locally they talk about it differently. They'll explain it differently, but it's the same model. So I'm not going to say too much more about that. You guys can pause that, read that if you want. It's available on Google Images. It's easy to find to compare the different cosmologies, but it's all the same. It's a cosmic axis that runs through the center of the flat disk, and the flat disk is at the middle of the system. And then because physics operates in torus fields when energy is created and distributed, it creates the domes as a natural effect of physics. So it is science. It's science. It's also spirituality. And they're actually the same. And that's one of my whole missions, is to bridge that gap and to make them consistent with each other, because they're the same thing. Real science and God, to me, are the same thing. Not the fake science, not your academy science or your college science. And there is good science in institutions. I'm not saying that there isn't. But, if you're not willing to look at metaphysics and dimensions and stuff, then I'm really not interested, because that's part of the science. You can't cut out what you don't like. You have to look at, if you're going to be a good scientist, you got to look at the whole picture. Okay, so that's the top three there. And again, these are all powerhouse civilizations. We rely on them for so much of the earthly wisdom. And they were all talking about it as a flat Earth model. This is the flat Earth disk. And again, plane is insinuating planet, or it's coming from that. They're corollary ideas. It's talking about a flat two-dimensional disk. Okay, so that's the most important part of flat Earth, is go to the ancient models and see what the ancient people were talking about. As you can see, this is 3 of them. I've got one more at the end of the presentation, but it does not end, believe me. And I just was looking at the Navajo cosmology last night. Guess what? They have the same thing. The same thing, guys. It's not one civilization. It's all of them. All of them. So just because someone comes around the 1500s, and I'll talk about Copernicus in a minute, he actually, it was a theory. It was a hypothesis that he put out. He didn't say it was a fact. He said, I'm doing a thought experiment. And then suddenly, the forces of this world that seek to control people and keep people in ignorance say, oh yeah, Copernicus, he's the guy. He figured it out. No, he didn't figure out shit. Excuse my language. The people that figured it out were the ancient people that went back 5,000, 6,000 BC. But when you go to their sites, they're still aligned to the stars and planets. They knew what it was. And guess what? If their calculation wasn't correct, or they weren't basing it on the correct model, then that wouldn't still be true looking at it today. You have to have the right model to have the right angles and measurements and all this stuff, unless you want to be unless you think you're a clever magician and you're going to come in and say, I'm going to take the facts and then I'm going to create a narrative to make it look like it's a globe model. Because that's what the deceivers do. They like to take the facts and then bend things like this. But you're not fooling me. You're not fooling all the flat earthers out there. So, great job, guys. Okay, so we've got all the ancient models I talked about. The other part is that the human body, and I talk about this a lot when I talk about biology, but the human body, the cosmic axis of the human body, the equivalent to that is the spine. It's the spinal column. It's the chakra system. Again, I do teach 10 chakras above, 10 chakras below, and the body, the earth would essentially be at the very base of your tailbone, and that's where the chakra 0 would be essentially if you had to give it to one. Everything below that are the hells. Some of the reason I know that is because of the word heal. The word heal on your body is that's the hell. That's where hell is. And then the word heaven, which is on the other side, is the word head. D and V are essentially interchangeable. So you've got the heavens above, the head above, the hells below, your heel below. It's all in the etymology. All of your answers, almost all of your answers are going to be in etymology. It's just amazing. And Karen, we talk about that all the time. Okay, so one of the things that I bring up a lot is the fact that there's a distortion. This is the easiest way for me to explain the perception of a globe. And, I don't, it doesn't affect my daily life, meaning that I don't let flat earth theory or flat earth model like move through everything I do. It's part of, it's part of the big story, but it doesn't, for me, doesn't have an effect on if I'm a good person or not and stuff like that, or if I'm healthy or not. So that takes precedence always. But I do believe it is flat because of all the ancient models and because of the next 50 points that I'm going to make. And I'm not the only one making them. Some of them are original to me. A lot of them are from some of my friends that I really trust. And, I've looked at the information. It appears very credible to me. And as a good scientist, it doesn't matter if I like it. I'm actually fairly neutral to most things because that's what good science is. But, you have to look at it. You have to give it time. Don't dismiss it because you're uncomfortable or because it makes you feel off kilter. You have to look at it objectively if you're going to understand it. But one of the things I've said, the example I like to use is the the snow globe at wintertime, Karen, that you shake up.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the little figurines in there and stuff. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the bottom of that structure is flat, and that's where all the little houses and trees are, and Santa Claus and the reindeer and everything. And then what happens is the top of it is a dome, and it's curved. And when you look through the top of it, it actually bends the light. And again, this is physics as well. So it makes it look like a three-dimensional if you're looking through the top, but it's flat on the bottom. And I think that's kind of what's going on. If, in fact, we can get up high enough in the atmosphere to take pictures, I believe it's being refracted or reflected through a crystalline atmosphere in the shape of a dome, which will end up actually distorting the flat image. And again, this is basic physics, very basic physics. Some of it might be coming from ice crystals. We know there's a lot of that in the atmosphere. I mean, the ether, I think, bends also. I've seen strange magnetic fluctuations in ether when I travel. So I think that's, for me, the easiest explanation in terms of, well, why do we have all these images of globes and stuff? And I actually don't really think those are real, to be honest with you. It goes into a whole other topic in terms of what NASA was formed to do and the people who run NASA. And I'm not trying to get in trouble with anyone. I'm just saying, guys, like, it doesn't look good. Just some of the, when you put all the evidence together, and here's one example. It's all over the internet. But if you look at the planet that's claimed to be Pluto, so when we got these images of Pluto, guys, you literally, and I'm not kidding, and I'm not like stretching for meaning here. If you pull up the planet Pluto or Pluto image, you're going to see the one that NASA has come up with, right? And it's like that kind of orange one. Well, there's an image of Pluto, the Disney dog. His head is sitting right in the middle of that image. And people are like, oh, it looks like a pretty heart. It looks like this beautiful image. Okay, well, hey, you know what? Let me make it easy. From my perspective, Freemasons run NASA. They run a lot of the questionable programs across the world. And again, I'm not trying to get in trouble here. I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just calling a spade a spade. Okay, and if you want to defend yourself, I'm very welcome. You're very welcome to do that. But it's better be something good, guys. Okay, because when I look at that, you put a picture of the dog Pluto next to that planet. Yeah, it's his head, and you can see the nose too, by the way. All right, so it's not even, it's so pathetic. It's not even convincing. Okay, so you've got the whole system, as I mentioned, being concentric spheres, and they're nested inside of each other like Russian nesting dolls. That's how the dimensions fit inside of each other, and that's how the torus forms. Different energy gradients, it will spiral. It does spiral, but it comes out from the center, and then when it hits the top of the field, it collapses and it comes around. It makes that nice sphere shape. And so the sphere shape, we have the word atmosphere. So it's talking about the sphere in the sky, not the sphere on the ground. The sphere on the ground is not a sphere, I don't believe. I believe it's a flat plane. And then again, the bending is coming from the sphere portion, which is above the Earth, in the dome shape, which is coming from that torus. So even in the words, the word planet is playing. The word atmosphere, which I am agreeing that the atmosphere and the domes are bended, and they're dome shaped like that. And so it's telling you where those actually belong, in my opinion. And again, this is just the beginning. We've got plenty more coming on here. And then again, to make it easy, one of the phrases I use is that we're not on a sphere, we're in a sphere. The flat disk of the Earth is inside of a gigantic crystalline sphere that surrounds the heavens and the hells in a concentric nesting format. All of them are inside of each other like an onion. So the larger system, I agree, I believe it is a sphere, but the shape of the actual Earth is not a sphere. The whole system is the sphere. Okay, we can go on to the next slide, I think, Karen. I'm going to talk about Hyperborea for a minute here. Okay, actually, let me just explain this. I drew this a while back. It's just showing you the onion shape of the spheres, and at the very center is the flat Earth disk. And then each one of those lines or the circles is an additional sphere, and you've got 10 of them. And then over on the right side, I have the different densities. And as you increase up through the heavens, you're actually decreasing in density. It's increasing in detail and beauty and colors. And then as you go down below that flat disk, you're going into the hells. It increases in density and decreases in detail and decreases in colors. So it's just showing you in a little slightly different format what that model kind of looks like. And you can look at it, head on, or if you can pretend you're looking at it from either way, it works. And you can see the sphere, nesting sphere shape. And again, this is how I teach the chakra system. This is how the body also works. It's the same model. They're equivalent to each other. It's as above, so below, which is a common axiom. And it's the same model. It's the same model. The cosmic axis, the world tree in the center, goes through the center of the Earth, which a lot of people believe essentially it correlates to Hyperborea or the North Pole, which I believe is the next slide, Karen, I think.
Don't skip over this brief commercial break. Dave and I have some important information for you. You may have noticed that participation in our community does not depend on memberships or donations, and we do not hide our episodes behind a paywall. We want everyone to have the opportunity to learn and share our important content with others. Dave and I both offer services which may make your journey more fulfilling, and I offer some products as well. Our sales and services are what provide us with the means to continue our work, as there are many expenses associated with our mission. Check out our offerings to find that which resonates with you to help create a win-win situation. What I mean by that is financial support to help cover our expenses, but also some great products and services to give you that edge that you've been looking for. Check out my online shop, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com, to find Zendome's orgone generators, comfort crystals, and an array of vital services, all designed to help you to become the change that you wish to see in the world. Now, more than ever, people are awakening to a world we never imagined possible. In response, Dave and I are offering tools, methods, and podcast content to assist you with your awakening process. You are not alone, and there is still much we can do to support our health, emotions, and our spirituality. We both combine ancient wisdoms with cutting-edge technology to help bring comfort to your body, happiness to your mind, and joy to your spirit. To assist you with your life journey, check out my website and find many valuable resources. There's the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation. This is a free, comprehensive online course. Learn about detoxification and nutrition, grounding and spiritual practices, and an advanced version of the Law of Attraction, giving you more of what you really want out of life. I also have my Zendomes Orgonite, which is my unique brand of orgone generators. They're ethically sourced and handmade by a friend of mine, and they're double charged for maximum effect. I also carry Comfort Crystals, which is a limited collection of energetically infused semi-precious stones. I have an array of vital services so you can get the one-on-one support that you've been looking for. Also coaching, guidance, and I do assessments and also workshops. And then again, there are the many free resources available on my website. Wisdom to assist with energetic ascension into physical, mental, and spiritual paradise. Also, check out Dave's services. Dave can teach you about astrology and spiritual concepts, principles of Eastern medicine, birth charts, relationship matching, spiritual guidance, fasting, and his unique approach to health. You can find Dave's services on his Facebook page, Instagram at Dave Petrella 12, and his YouTube channel. The links can be found in the description box below. Let us share our quantum work with you. It's your turn to heal, evolve, and thrive. Believe in your ability to succeed. Now, let's get back to the show.
We can go on to, there we go. All right, guys. So this is called Hyperborea. And Hyperborea is the landmass that is supposed to be at the center of the North Pole. And so what's interesting about this, again, used to be on very old maps, and then it was scrubbed. We do have a fair amount of ice there. There's a fair amount of melting during the summer season as well. But the point I want to make is that I've also talked to people that channel, and they say, no, the land's still there, Dave. It's just not visible in the same spectrum. And it's these dimensional shifts and tricks that we have with light that can make these things possible. So I can definitely see that. I don't know if that's correct, but because I think about this is also sometimes.
Oh, where'd you go? Where'd you go, Dave? There you are.
Can you? Yeah, so what happened? You still hear me?
I can see you, but I've disappeared now, which is strange, but it doesn't matter. People don't have to see me, and it may show up on the final edit. But if you, I can see you, I can hear you okay, and I can see the screen share. It's just the square with me is missing from my perspective right now.
Okay, I see you, Karen. I see you, and I hear you as well.
Okay, then let's just continue, Dave. Thank you.
Okay, so the Hyperborea map here, sometimes it's also associated with the Garden of Eden, being at the center. So there's a lot of overlap in these topics, and it's really hard to get your head around which one you think it is. So what I do is I always have everything in the files. If I need it, I just pull out that file and I can apply it to where it needs to go. And that's that's as good as we can do, in my opinion. We have to just give it our best effort, find good evidence, and then don't forget about things. You never know when you might be able to use them going forward into the future. Okay, so yeah, this is Hyperborea. It's got the four-headed river, which is also usually associated with the Garden of Eden. We know there was a tree, several trees in the Garden of Eden. I'll get to Norse mythology at the very end, or Norse cosmology, which features the Yggdrasil tree, or the world tree essentially. So there's a lot of convincing points for making Hyperborea actually the center of the flat Earth disk, which would be equivalent to the North Pole. But it could be a lot of things. I'm just showing you the model. It also looks kind of like Atlantis, which I'll get to in a second, and that comes into the flat Earth model as well, with the concentric rings. Yeah, we can probably go to that next image, Karen. I believe it's Atlantis. I think that's the one. Can you hear me, Karen?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's supposed to be coming up is the rings of white with the
Okay.
land masses and the blue background. Is that the
Exactly.
right one?
Okay, so this one is this is the right one. This is
Okay.
one of the flat Earth models. It's fairly it can be difficult to understand, but the point is that the center of this disk, that very center circle, is actually the Earth. And then the next circle is what's called the other lands, or the outer lands. So you see that in the center circle, you see that white ring around the outside. That's what we call the ice wall of the flat Earth. And it said there's a wall of ice that goes all the way around the perimeter of the circle of the flat disk, and it actually keeps the water in as like a rim, like a rim of a bowl. That's what keeps the water in. Because some of the argument is, and again, I have to agree, like if you've got a planet that's rotating that fast and moving through space that fast, how does the water stay on? Again, this is physics. So you're gonna have to come up with a pretty damn good explanation. I mean, we know that when something moves, the parts of it, especially liquid, goes the other way. Or when you take a turn in a car, the energy will force you to the other side, stuff like this. So, again, it's hard for people to believe, a lot of people, including myself, that it's a globe, because even talking about the water and how does the water stay on? It's like you can't just, as a scientist, you can't just make a proclamation and say, that's how, no, dude, it's not, that's what you believe. You believe that. I see your evidence. Now it's my turn to talk, and it's Santos' turn to talk, and it's David Weiss's turn to talk, and it's Eric Dubé's turn to talk. And if you want us to listen to you, then you're gonna sit down and also listen to us. Otherwise, I'm not listening to you because you're not being respectful. Very simple. Very, very simple. That goes for everything. You have your turn, and then you get to be silent and respect the other person who's now gonna have their turn. And that's also good science. Okay, so can't believe I have to explain this. It's like a 6-year-old knows these things. You wait for your turn. Okay, the center of this, again, the little green dots, or land masses you see there, that's the Earth. You have the center, very center white ring. That would be the ice wall around the outside of the Earth. And then you have the next ring. Those are alternate or additional lands. They're called the extra lands. And then outside of that are more extra lands. And so some of the argument for flat Earth is that we can only see the inner part of the flat disk. The flat disk is actually much larger than just the Earth. We can't see it because, the entire Antarctic area is patrolled constantly. Humans can't have access to it, or flight patterns and things like that. The Arctic is highly guarded too. But the point is that this is actually a well-known model that goes back a very long time. And some people believe that the extraterrestrials, a lot of them are actually coming from the extra lands, which would be outside of the very center of this of the flat disk of the Earth here. And some people also think that when we launch rockets to Mars, we're actually just going to some of the extra lands. You don't get out of the dome. You actually just go like linearly or laterally, and you would go over the ice wall, and then you land on a. I don't even think we can do that personally, but I don't know, because everyone's lying. So I'm trying to figure it out, just like everyone is day to day here. That's what we can do right now. And this also is really good support for the Atlantis is described as having concentric circles, and this is kind of what it would look like in terms of a flat Earth Atlantis model. And it's some people believe, sometimes I go back and forth, that the entire Earth is actually Atlantis, or at least the very center of the larger flat disk, which again would be that center circle in this picture here, would be Atlantis, because the model is the bullseye, which is these concentric circles. Okay, so that's Atlantis's flat Earth. Let's see here. I already mentioned Earth being the heart at the center. Of course, the torus field, that's how these domes are formed. All right, I think we can go on to the next one, Karen. I've only got maybe 2 more slides, and then I've got a few things to read. Okay, so this image is called the Analema, and I learned this again from Santos Bonacci. And the reason it looks like this big bowling ball in the sky, according to the flat Earth model, this is how the path of the sun looks if you were to take a picture of the sun at the same spot every day in the sky. It actually will form this bowling ball shape. And the reason, according to flat Earth theory, that the top of it is a much smaller circle is because during the summer solstice, you have the sun actually rotating around the Earth, not the other way around, and it's making very tight circles very high up in the sky. It's like a very, very tight circle it makes when it's rotating on the summer solstice. And then as you're approaching, when you leave the summer solstice, the sun starts to actually descend. It comes lower to the Earth, and it starts to make larger circles. And then by the time you get to the Tropic of Capricorn, which is, of course, the winter solstice, it's making very large circles around the perimeter of the Tropic of Capricorn, and it's very close to the Earth. And then during the summer solstice, it's actually very high up in central, and you're getting different, more direct rays from the sun, and that's the explanation for why you have different seasons and things. So you can explain the seasons also with the flat Earth model, and this is really the best way to be doing that. And again, it's something where you can see the shapes there. So you have to, try to explain, well, why is one of the circles very small and why is one of them much larger? And the flat Earth model does explain that, and I'm again, take my turn. I'd be happy to listen to another scientist who wants to tell me how the globe model fits that. But at the end of the day, what we have to stop doing is don't be offensive or aggressive to people. We can have a civil debate. And again, this is what bothers me about the world, is that I see 10-year-olds arguing like a kid who had his toy taken away, Karen. In no manner, when you're trying to have a civil discussion, does it evolve into that. And you're going to have my respect. You're not going to have my respect if that's the way it goes. I believe very strongly it's a flat Earth. But guess what? I'll sit for 2 hours and let someone who believes it's a globe present their presentation. I'll shake their hand afterwards and thank them. And if they had good points, I'll acknowledge their points and I'll compliment them. And then we're going to go have concessions and have a nice dinner together, and it's okay. We're all friends still. It's okay, guys. You don't have to be at each other's throats. I can't stand that stuff. Okay, I think we've got one more picture, Karen. Is that correct?
2 more.
Okay, we can go to the next one.
We have this one.
Okay, what's the last one?
Oh, just the credits.
Okay, yeah. So let's go to the one before that, Karen. I'm going to leave it there for a minute. You guys can just meditate on this while I go through some of the text I want to go through. We can flip to the next one, Karen, the tree. That'd be okay. So you guys can see the torus model as I'm presenting the rest of this. Okay, so let's go to, these are the cosmologies. I presented a lot of the science for flat Earth. We talked about Atlantis and Hyperborea, concentric disks, and all of these wonderful topics, torus field. So now what I'm going to go into is some of the let's say secondary evidence. That was most of the scientific evidence. We're going to go to some of the other evidence now. All right, so like I mentioned in the beginning, the spiritual texts have copious references to flat Earth. So these are, again, in the Bible. I'm going to start with the Bible. So this is the wonderful book that all the Christians proclaim is their creed. And I think there's a lot of wonderful things. And there's also a lot of very strange things in there. And there's also a lot of flat Earth things in there. And again, you can't just take something and throw away what you don't want. If you say that's your book, then I expect to look at the whole book. We're not going to pick and choose the things we take out of it. Not to mention, as you know, Karen, we'll be getting into it with our guest actually in a couple of weeks here. about some of the things that happened potentially during the Council of Nicaea and how there were votes about which books are going to be in the Bible. Well, the humans decided that. God doesn't decide what books. It's all information to him or to her or to, the union of those two. So that was a human thing that happened. But anyway, let's go to Genesis. So Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. The firmament, that's the eighth sphere. That's where all the stars are. And it does, in fact, divide the waters from the waters, because below that are the waters of the oceans and the fresh water. And then directly above that, in the ninth sphere, is what's called the crystalline sea, which is the ocean above the eighth sphere. Right? And it's the ocean of Neptune. Neptune or Poseidon rules the ocean on Earth, but he also rules the ocean in the ninth sphere. It's called the dream world. It's called the crystalline sea. And if you go to the model of the flat Earth, the way I like to describe it is it's a shimmering force field in the ninth sphere that kind of blocks off the rest of the universe from our local bubble Earth model, or our local onion solar system, essentially. Okay, so that's directly from the Bible. So, some of my challenges to explain what that means, why they're using those terms, if it's not a flat. Okay, the next one, Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, let there be lights in the vault of the sky. A vault is often a dome shape, by the way. That's one of the things. And if you have a tomb under the earth, or things talking about Oak Island, for instance, you'd expect to find like potentially a vaulted ceiling or a vault.
Oh dear, we've lost Dave again. Well, here he is. He's back. Hi, Dave. You just dropped out for a minute, but
It's okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. You can continue. I don't know what's going on with tech.
Tech doesn't want me to talk about this because I'm talking about the truth here.
Yeah.
Okay, so Genesis 1:14, let there be lights in the vault of the sky, and let them be for signs and seasons. So again, the vault of the sky is talking about the dome shape, and signs. And again, the Bible is not trying to get us away from the stars and planets. It's actually they can work together. It's not a problem. It's not a problem at all. You can still hear me, Karen?
Yes, I can hear you, Dave, although your camera is not activated.
Okay, I have no idea why. I'm just going to keep going.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got Isaiah, again from the Bible, Isaiah 40, chapter 40, verse 22. It is he who sits above the circle of the earth. So again, a circle is not a sphere. I'm just saying, it's not a sphere. We know that from geometry. A circle is 2D, a sphere is 3D. Okay, so it is he who sits above the circle of the earth, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them like a tent to dwell in. And that tent that it's referring to is called the tent of the sun. And the tent of the sun is what I was talking about, is when at the summer solstice, it's very high, making small circles. And then as it comes down to the winter solstice, it actually broadens out like this, and it makes like a pyramid shape. And that pyramid shape, when it translates to the analemma that I showed you guys, the bowling pin picture, it's showing the smaller portion versus the larger portion. And it's called the tent of the sun. That's one of the reasons I think pyramids were built in that shape, because they know that the sun actually moves in these very tight orbits across the earth at summer solstice, and then as it comes down, they're very large orbits, and that makes a pyramidal shape, or a tent. Which is what it's describing in Isaiah here. Okay, above the circle of the earth, stretches out the heavens like a curtain. Okay, so we got the tent. And the Quran actually refers to the earth as a carpet. The last time I checked, a carpet is flat. You don't have a carpet draped over some kind of three-dimensional shape. It's flat, rolled out like a carpet. So I'm not taking sides here. I'm pulling from different texts, different traditions. The Quran certainly highlights that earth as well. Okay, now back to Copernicus. So Copernicus, in the early 1500s, what he said was that a revolving earth was a possibility. It was put forth as a theory, not proven by facts. Okay, so that's the first thing. It was not saying this is what it is. It was like a thought experiment, basically. And then it got forced into our educational systems with almost no mention of flat Earth. And so I believe that was done on purpose to obscure things, and to take people down the incorrect paths. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, anyway, it's been watered down since the 1500s for sure. It's just gotten worse and worse in terms of what we're actually living in here. Okay, the ice wall. So the ice wall that I had mentioned previously, the great Captain Cook, great sailor and explorer, he tried to circumnavigate Antarctica, and according to one account, it says that he traveled 67,000 miles, and he still couldn't get around it because it's not a continent. And according to what I'm trying to highlight here, I'm not saying I'd like to see it. Then I could feel better about it. I can't see it right now, so I'm just going to go with the account. But he couldn't get around the continent because, according to this account, it's actually just a perimeter. It's a perimeter of ice, and it would be around, I guess, around that. I don't know the exact calculation around the ice wall of the flat Earth disk, but 67,000 miles is not. You're not going around a landmass. You're going around. Not on the Earth here. It's something much bigger than that. Okay, sailors have often gotten lost in the southern hemisphere. The navigation stops working. They can't figure out where they are. They're way off course. That doesn't happen like above the equator. It's something that happens below the equator generally because if you're using a globe model, you're assuming that below the equator is the same volume, the same landmass and area as below the equator, because a globe would be equal on the top and the bottom. But if it's actually a flat Earth disk, and you're using a calculation based on the northern hemisphere, then it's not going to work because it's a much larger area. The edge of the circle is a much bigger area, and that calculation, in fact, would not work. So that's a good one. I really like that one. Okay, from Genoa, Italy, the city, you can see Corsica 99 miles away. And this is, again, according to what is claimed to be the curvature of the Earth. According to the curvature, and this is coming from scientists, this is what they claim is the curvature of the Earth, according to their calculation that's being used with this point I'm bringing up. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, so it should be, I believe this says 525 feet below the horizon. If you're looking at Corsica from Genoa, I hope that's 525. It's either 525 or 52 and a half. I think it's 525 feet below the horizon. And in fact, you can see it no problem. You can see it right there on the horizon when you look out. 99 miles away, there it is. The other example is Elba, 125 miles, excuse me, 125 miles away. It should be 8,000 feet below sea level, and it's not. You can see it right there on the horizon. So how do we explain that? That's one I'd like to see people go out in the field and work with each other to figure out. How do we explain this, guys? And don't try to instigate things with people, just because it's going to destroy your worldview or whatever, as that's not maturity. Look at it and just do the measurement and talk about, we can be civil as humans. Okay, my favorite one is from Anchorage, Alaska. Now, I've spent a lot of time in Alaska. Mount McKinley, which is also called Denali to the natives. I think they actually changed it to Denali. Thank goodness, finally, back to the native name. Mount McKinley, which is called Denali again, is 130 away from Anchorage, and it should be half covered, 9,220 feet, but it can still be seen as a full mountain. So basically, I've stood in Anchorage. And this is my firsthand experience from this. I've stood in Anchorage, Alaska. You can see the entire Mount McKinley. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm very used to McKinley. The entire mountain of Denali, 130 feet away, miles. My goodness, Karen, this technology is getting me off here.
Oh dear. I apologize for our technical difficulties. Dave should be right back. Oh, here he is.
Okay.
He's
Yeah.
back. Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, so 130 miles away, and I can see it flat on the horizon. And I've seen that with my own eyes. It's not something I'm just taking people's word for. So for me, that's a very convincing one. Okay, you can still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. We also only have about 10 minutes left, Dave, just to give you a heads up.
All right, I'm gonna power through the rest here.
Okay.
Okay, there's no verified north to south. There's no verified north to south circumnavigation way to try to prove flat Earth. Actually, those are not the ways that people.
Oh, yeah. Technical difficulties today. Are you back, Dave? Yeah, I can hear you.
Yep. Okay. So, seen more than 20 degrees below the equator, which again, that's really hard to deal with when you're talking about a globe model because it doesn't fit, doesn't make sense. The Arctic is a lot warmer than the Antarctic area, and there's a lot more species. So again, it does not appear to be equally distributed in terms of the flora and the fauna on the planet. Because maybe it's not a sphere, maybe it's flat. Okay, we've got sunrise and sunset. They move very fast in the southern hemisphere. It's very gradual in the north. And again, one of the ways to account for that is that you have a much larger perimeter in the southern hemisphere if we're talking. I'm gonna keep going. You hear me?
Yeah, but you're cutting out like every couple of minutes now. I don't know if there's a problem maybe with your Wi-Fi,
No,
maybe. I don't know.
It's
Pardon?
the AI, Karen. It's the AI. It's the AI. It's the artificial intelligence trying to mess with me. So you know what? If it keeps cutting off, that's fine. I'm gonna do as much as I can, Karen. If it's the end of the show and I'm not there, you can call it.
Okay.
Okay, so sunrise and sunset very fast in the southern hemisphere, gradual in the north. If you're talking about a flat disk along the outside of the perimeter, then if it's moving away, it would be actually very fast because it's moving at a larger angle out as it's moving towards the sunset if it's a flat disk. So that's something that's hard to account for again if you're talking about a globe. And I've had people verify that people in the southern hemisphere, they say, yeah, it actually disappears very fast, very fast. Okay, the dome of a window on an aircraft or a supposed space shuttle, it could potentially they could be using a convex or concave lens that will make it appear as a sphere. Again, bending the light, it's going to make it appear as a sphere in a picture when you're looking through that window. But in fact, it could actually potentially be just bending the light, which I've already addressed that part. Okay, pilots trained on a non-moving target of their training program, not a spinning globe. And there's NASA documents that actually say this and talk about this. We don't train on the globe that spins. We train on the flat area, non-moving target. Flight paths for refueling planes, they actually work on the flat Earth model, not so much in the globe model. When you see how they're actually moving, like where they're going to in order to refuel and things, it's not as much according to this point based on the globe model. Trigonometry for planes and for sailing, again, based on a plane or a planar system when you're doing the calculations. Okay, so that's most of the presentation. I just want to kind of summarize with a couple points here. And the points are that the issue for me is the lie and it's the misrepresentation. But we need to completely stop that crap. That has no place in the new Earth. It has no place even in science. What it is a control system trying to keep people in the dark. That's the issue with that. Okay, so yeah, it's the issue being the misrepresentation about the spiritual world, and again, this is not just science. You're talking about the spiritual components, the heavens and the hells, different dimensions, and they don't ever touch on that. They don't care about that stuff, and because they're, I don't know who they're worshiping, but it's not the God that I believe in. It's some other demonic presence or something like that. I'll let them tell me who they're worshiping. I don't know, but it's not something that I think is a good thing. The misrepresentation and the general deception being used as a control system, it's so obvious to all of us here in the alternative news community, and people who are trying to better society, that there's something is up. It does feel like the sun and the moon are close in the sky. It does not feel like they're 93 million miles away. Again, I'm sorry. It feels local. It does feel close. You can feel the warmth of the sun. The moon feels close. One of the the diameter of the, let's see here, I believe of the sun and or the moon, they're essentially about the same size in the sky, which is hard to explain that one too. It's very interesting. It was very clearly designed. But the diameter of both of them, I believe it's 2,159 miles. And imagine that, because in astrology, when you're talking about the great year and the ages, is 2,160 years per age. So each age is equivalent to the diameter of the discs in the sky. That's amazing. That's amazing creation calculation with that. And it's not coincidence. If it's, so what I say, one of the things I say here, if Antarctica is a continent, and for all the people who want the flat earth people to close their mouths about this is what you do. You let us fly over it. We're going to get a private aircraft. We're going to get probably 20 different teams of people, and you get out of our way. That's what you do. Otherwise, we're not going to just accept what you're saying. We don't just accept the narrative. That's not science. That's called like obfuscating, or you're trying to obscure. You're trying to put a veil between, and you're trying to say, oh, nothing to see here. Okay, well, if there's nothing to see here, then let me see it. And then I'm going to shake your hand if that's in fact turns out to be true. If it turns out not to be true, we have a problem. We have a serious problem. Because then when you pull that one time, I don't ever trust you again. I'm saying, take me and take you at your word, but if you lie, we're gonna have a problem in the future. So that's one way to prove if Antarctica is a continent. An easy way, Karen. Let's get the planes up there, not the military planes. I'm saying a private planes, not people that get paid by NASA to do it. I'm saying people who are citizens. I'm not gonna say citizens. I'm gonna say humans. Let's get humans up there who have different perspectives, and we get a bunch of teams out there, and we can figure that one out fast. But if you don't let us fly over it, then okay, there's something fishy's going on then. You can't block it and assume people are going to be okay with that. No, we don't work that way. Okay, 2 more points here. Same thing with the Arctic, the Arctic Ocean. Let us fly over it. Let's see what's up there. Let's get some more boats up there. Again, not people that are being paid to profess narrative. Let's get people up there. Let's see what's going on. Won't let us up there because it's heavily patrolled. There's a lot of military, of course. Okay. 2 more points. Again, get reasonable people who just want to see what's going on. You have to let us in. Otherwise, we're not going to ever be convinced. You can't block it forever, guys. We don't buy it. And me and millions of other people, believe me. Let's run the independent experiments. People who are unaffiliated, unfunded, money's not going to be a part of this. We're not going to take your team of people. We're going to make our own team of people, and they're going to be people who actually have to own up to what they're doing, and they have to answer to the public. And so you're going to come in front of everyone and take the questions, show us your pictures, give us your calculations, and then we're going to keep that train of thought going. That's how you do that. Okay, last point. Again, travel to the locations that are in question. If there's a question about how can you see this mountain when it should be beneath the arc of the earth of the globe, and I can see the whole mountain. All right, let's go there and let's make the calculation. I'll take a normal scientist. Maybe I'll be there. Maybe someone else will come out with us who's skeptical, and let's see what's going on. And then if I can see the whole mountain, then what is your explanation for that? The person who says it's a globe, according to your calculation, you're saying I should not be able to see this. I'm freaking standing there with my own eyes and I see the whole mountain. So you're going to have to come up with something pretty good on, or you're gonna have, because that's the favor is in my perspective when we're talking about that. It's not in your theory, because the visual for me trumps the theory. You're seeing it with your own eyes and saying, okay, this actually is what it really looks like. Okay, and then the last thing, again, if the access is not being allowed, then we're not taking you at your word. No way, no way. That's the oldest trick in the book, Karen, is that you're saying, oh, just trust me, but there's nothing to see here. Okay, well then you're gonna let me behind the curtain, and I'm gonna verify that, me and my friends, and then we'll see what happens. And by the way, if you lied to me, the last time I'm gonna listen to what you said. So you better not be messing with us. Just me. It's millions of people across the world right now. That's called blocking. Blocking is not okay for truth and for exposing what it actually is, what's actually the system is. Okay, so I would just refer people to there's a couple things. Of course, I had mentioned Mr. Astrotheology. That's the YouTube channel, that's Santos Bonacci's channel. He's got huge amounts of flat Earth content, far more than I've ever done. He's been doing it for much longer than I have. David Weiss does a great job too. Karen's had him on her show multiple times. He's a nice guy, and I like his style. It's a light style, and he's fun. You can check him out. And then, of course, the other person is Eric Dubay, and his YouTube channel is ERIC, and his last name DUBAY. The two videos, like I said, you're going to have to go through his playlist, because I tried to search it and it doesn't come up immediately. So if you want to see the videos I'm going to talk about here, the ones that I thought he did the best job on, one of his videos is called 100, with like the numerals 100, 100 proofs Earth is not a globe. In parentheses, it says video book. That's the first video. And the other one that I really like that he did is called 200. Again, the numerals 200, proofs Earth is not a spinning ball. And if you need more and you want to continue to investigate, I've covered what I think are the most important ideas and concepts, and the ones that come up the most frequently. But there's a lot out there, and there's really a lot more out there. And it's all up to you guys, do the research. I just hope this has been a good place for you to come and just get a baseline understanding of the topic, because there's a lot here. And what I like about YouTube, Karen, too, and that it's recorded, is that you can replay the video and you can pause it. You can come back to it in a week if you've had enough, when you want to do your own research, and then just keep going and develop the idea, develop what you think about it. But Karen, I want to let you have a word on to wrap up here really quickly on what you feel about it, because I think you're open to both. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm actually open to more than both. I'm open to, I often speak in terms of my own extraterrestrial experiences. I use a globe model because that's what most people can understand and are familiar with. But I've done a great deal of research into the flat Earth theory. It's compelling. I've also done research into the morphogenic or holographic field theory. And what I want to really encourage the viewers to do is to look into the wild and wonderful theories that are out there. And at first, like what happened to me, I felt kind of sick. It shook things up for me so much, but it was exactly what I needed. So it's not like we're asking you to believe in this or that, and not at all, but we are asking you to do the research and be amazed at some of the possible realities that we never even knew existed before. And what happens is, in my opinion, is it's like a house of cards. There's all this deception and lies and intrigue. And of course, it's because greedy people want more than their share, and on it goes. But the more research you do into these different rabbit holes, the more it breaks that conditioning, it breaks that programming. So you can start making up your own mind, what's real, what's not real, find true health, what love means, form stronger communities, improve our health, and start contributing to what I call the new positive timeline, because there's obviously just the shift that's happened in the last month has shown me that we are making shifts. So let's choose the direction of our shifts by opening up our consciousness, being open to other ways of seeing things. You're always at the helm. No one's asking you to give up what you believe. If your religion is doing it for you, or your politic, or your philosophy on life, great. But I got to tell you, a lot of people are not happy. They're not healthy, and they are so tired of all the BS that is shoveled at us through mainstream media. And so that also leads me to say how much I very much appreciate the viewers for this show, also for the Quantum Guide Show, also for Dave's podcast. If you haven't done so already, check out Dave's podcast at Dave Petrella 12 on YouTube. You can find my podcasts on Telegram, YouTube, and Odyssey. It's at Karen Holton TV. And you can also check out my website, check out some of Dave's services. He'd be happy to help you with a natal chart, help you with relationship matching, all kinds of things. I also offer services to help people to orient themselves in their new reality, because it's a bit of a shock to wake up and find out that almost everything we've been shoveled at us through mainstream media is BS, and it doesn't serve us, and we can have better, and we deserve better. And did I leave anything out, Dave?
No, that was great, Karen. Yeah, we appreciate your support, guys, and we appreciate donations too. Me and Karen are trying to bring great information.
Oh, dear, Dave got cut off again. I know what he's going to say. He says, we work hard to bring you great information. There he is. Hi, Dave.
Yes, we appreciate support. So if you guys are able to financially help us, we listed there. We appreciate contributions for sure. And yeah, my services are listed on my YouTube page in the About section as well. And don't hesitate to send me a message if you want to know more about services. I have it listed pretty clearly there. And I just want to wrap up. The last thing I want to say, Karen, is the last picture we had up there, which is the Norse cosmology, essentially the Scandinavian mythology. It's called Yggdrasil, which is the world tree. And at the center of that world tree, the flat Earth disk is called actually Midgard, which again is telling you it's in the middle. It's the middle garden. And then again, when you're talking about garden, you're thinking about Garden of Eden again, being the Earth or being Atlantis, or it may all be the same. It may be slightly different. I don't really know. I mean, I wish I could see a little bit clearer, but we're getting somewhere. I really believe we're getting.
Oh, I agree. And another way I just want to add that you can help support our work is to purchase one of my beautiful Zendomes orgone generators. I've got some on display behind me, and also they're available from my website, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. So yeah. I guess that's it for today, Dave, and
Okay.
And to all the viewers, thank you so much for joining us, and we can't wait to see you next week. We got another exciting guest coming up, lots of wonderful information, and until then, take care. Hope you have a good week, and we'll see you next time on Aliens and Astrology. Bye-bye.
Thanks for hanging in there, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining Dave and I for the Aliens and Astrology show. Become the change you want to see in the world. Subscribe to our YouTube channels, click the like button, and share this show with your friends. Check out Karen's website at karenholtonhealthcoach.com. All the links will be in the description box below. Until the next time, keep up the good work.
Well, you challenge my perception. I shift uneasily as I try to justify how I value your suggestions. Ideas full of life when I'm empty of my own. And 5 minutes before I was okay, now the curtain drops to the floor. Leaves me weak and begging for more. When I think I get it, it flutters and vanishes away.